Hi everyone, I'm Alin and welcome back to Economic Concept. Today, we're going to explore a question that might seem counterintuitive at first. But before I start, please don't forget to share, like and subscribe because your support is very important to me. So, as you have seen in the title, the question is, why is northern Florida so sparsely populated? When we think of Florida, images of Miami's streets, Orlando's theme parks, or Tampa's busy financial districts come up to mind. But venture up north and you'll see a very different picture, sprawling forests, small towns, and a low-density population. In this video, we will dive deep into the statistics, trends, and factors that explain why northern Florida has such a low population density compared to the southern half of the state, from geographic limitation to economic factors and even social dynamics. We'll explore why northern Florida has failed to experience the same population boom. Now, let's break it down.
Population distribution. First, let's start with the most basic statistic, population density. According to the US Census Bureau, as of 2020, Florida's population was over 21 million. However, the distribution is highly skewed toward the southern regions of the state. The counties in northern Florida, such as Baker, Hamilton, and Jefferson, have some of the lowest population densities in the state. For example, Baker County, located in the northeastern part of the state, has just 35 people per square mile. In stark contrast, Miami-Dade County in the south has a density of over 1,400 people per square mile. That's a nearly 40-fold difference. When we look at the state's major cities, the divide becomes even clearer. Miami, with over 470,000 residents, and Jacksonville, the largest city in northern Florida, with just over 900,000, illustrate this urban-rural divide. Jacksonville is the largest city by area in the contiguous US, but its population density is only about 1,100 people per square mile, significantly lower than cities in southern Florida like Miami, which is over 1,400. Even looking at the whole region, northern Florida's population makes up only about 40% of the state's total population, despite covering nearly 60% of Florida's land area. This disparity is a key indicator that the geography and economy of the region have not supported the same level of urbanization as the southern parts of the state. Geographic barriers, natural constraints. Now, let's dig into the geography of northern Florida and why it might not be as conducive to urban development. The northern part of Florida is characterized by a variety of terrains, from dense forests and wetlands to rolling hills and swamps. Consider this, northern Florida is home to the famous Okefenokee Swamp, which spans parts of Georgia and Florida. The swamp is one of the largest wetland areas in North America, covering about 700,000 acres. This swampy land presents a major challenge for any kind of significant urban development. There are limited buildable areas within and around the swamp, which naturally restricts settlement. Additionally, northern Florida is not part of the traditional tropical Florida landscape that attracts millions of tourists annually. While Central and South Florida are flatter and more suited to large-scale development, northern Florida is much more rugged. The land is less hospitable to dense urban sprawl and lacks the iconic beaches that drive population booms in places like Miami and Tampa. To illustrate the impact of geography, let's look at population data from some of the rural counties in northern Florida. For instance, Union County has a population density of just 63 people per square mile, which is far lower than Florida's average of 394 people per square mile. This low density is partially due to the region's physical limitations, making it harder to create the necessary infrastructure for rapid urbanization. Climate, a factor in attraction. Florida is known for its warm weather, but the northern part of the state has a more temperate climate than the southern parts. While Miami and the Keys enjoy a tropical climate year-round, northern Florida experiences more pronounced seasonal changes. In fact, it's not unusual for areas like Tallahassee to have temperatures that dip below freezing during the winter months. The average temperature in Tallahassee in January, for instance, is around 49 degrees on 9 degrees C, whereas in Miami, the average is 68 degrees and 20 degrees. The cooler winters in the north, combined with the region's sweltering summers, create a less attractive environment for those seeking a more consistently warm climate year-round. To provide a comparison, According to the National Weather Service, Miami sees an average of 248 sunny days per year, while Tallahassee only sees 225 days. This may seem like a small difference, but for people considering relocating to Florida, these extra days of sunshine can make a big difference. A warmer, more consistent climate in the southern part of the state attracts both retirees and tourists, who contribute to the higher population density in cities like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa. Additionally, the hurricane risk in northern Florida is slightly higher than in the south due to the region's proximity to the Gulf of Mexico. For example, the city of Tallahassee is at higher risk for major hurricanes compared to cities like Orlando, which is farther inland. This factor, combined with colder winters, further diminishes the appeal of northern Florida as a place to settle for those seeking more temperate and stable weather conditions. Economic landscape, lack of urban centers. The economic landscape is another key factor that has contributed to the low population density in northern Florida. While southern Florida has become a hub for international business, tourism, and major industries, northern Florida has remained largely agricultural and rural. According to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, in 2020, the GDP per capita for Miami-Dade County was $53,000, significantly higher than the average for northern Florida counties like Jefferson or Liberty, where the per capita income is closer to $28,000. The South Florida economy is driven by sectors like tourism, finance, real estate, and technology, all of which generate high-paying jobs and attract young professionals. Let's take a look at employment numbers. In 2019, about 35% of workers in the northern part of the state were employed in agriculture, mining, and forestry, compared to just 3% in southern Florida. This difference in job sectors is key. Agricultural work is often lower paying and less likely to attract large numbers of people compared to the high-paying tech, finance, and service sector jobs available in Miami or Orlando. Without major metropolitan cities driving economic growth, northern Florida lacks the same urban infrastructure that could support a larger population. Cultural and social factors, rural versus urban preferences. Cultural factors also play a role in the population distribution of Florida. The South is known for its rural, traditional lifestyle, and northern Florida is no exception. Much of the population in northern Florida still relies on agriculture and small businesses, and the pace of life is slower than in cities like Miami, which has a much more cosmopolitan atmosphere. The preference for rural life over urban living is particularly noticeable in counties like Madison and Baker, where more than 70% of the population lives in rural areas. This contrasts sharply with the more urbanized southern Florida, where people flock to cities for job opportunities, entertainment, and a fast-paced lifestyle. This cultural divide influences migration patterns. People looking for a bustling urban lifestyle are much more likely to move to southern Florida, where cities like Miami and Tampa offer ample career prospects and entertainment options. Northern Florida, with its quieter, more agricultural lifestyle, doesn't appeal to the same demographic. Conclusion: why northern Florida remains sparsely populated. So, why is northern Florida so sparsely populated? It's a combination of geographic factors, economic limitations, climate, and cultural dynamics. The natural landscape with its swamps, forests, and more challenging terrain makes urban development more difficult. While northern Florida has its unique charms, it simply doesn't have the same economic, social, or geographical advantages that drive people to the southern parts of the state. Thanks for watching. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Economic Concept for more data-driven explorations of interesting topics. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.